Generation X. In general terms, those born between 1965 and 1980. Latchkey kids. Independent. Existentialism. Modern philosophy focusing on personal experience, human ability, and responsibility in an otherwise meaningless universe. We're the cause. This is the effect. We're the Gen X-istentialists. Welcome in to the Gen X-istentialist podcast. My name is Scott.
And I'm Bunny.
And we have a special guest with us here again this week. Say hello to
John Hildreth, coming to you from Blacksburg, Virginia.
John Hildreth is with us, a friend of ours from high school. And of course,
the inimitable John Hildreth.
Inimitable, yes. This is the show where we spin Mega Wheel of Magnificent. We expound extemporaneously on any number of topics coming from our very own Gen X perspective. And we will jump right in, and I will give Mega Wheel a spin, and we'll see what kind of wonderment she gives us to start the show. And Mega Wheel of Magnificent is large and in charge. Mm-hmm. Over 1,300 questions. And over 1,300 questions, this is what she gives us to start off with. It's 2 words. Doesn't even have a question mark. Just it's more of a statement than anything. Favorite smells. Bunny.
Favorite smells. Fresh tomato vines, honeysuckle, petrichor, my wife's hair after she's been outside running around. A little funky. I like that. That would be my top 4. Was that 4 smells?
Yeah.
I like smells. I got a big nose. So smelling is one of my great pleasures in life.
Cool. John,
Maybe
favorite
I should be
smells.
a dog back in the day. Go for it.
Those are some good ones, Bunny. I love the smell of the air after the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're like going into the woods. It's a really awesome smell. I love the smell of rose water. Just that floral kind of thing coming at you. It's something that I've always loved. I like the smell of orchids too. That's a really cool smell. Kind of something I've come back to many times in life. You kind of smell it and it brings you back many years. So there's 3 of them for you.
Cool. You guys took a couple of my favorites. Rain, the smell during a rainstorm or a thunderstorm, and honeysuckle, because my grandfather, my dad's dad, his house they lived in Bellevue, the side of the house was all honeysuckle. And I remember that during like the late spring, just that smell permeated everything. The other thing I'll give you is vanilla. Just anything vanilla. I love that smell. And the smell of my fingers after I've played bass if I'm using stainless steel strings. And I can't really describe it. I just love that metallic tinge. It's almost like a weird money smell, even though I don't make money or much at all from music, but just that smell of your fingers after you're done playing or practicing using steel strings. So those are mine.
That's the reason I like to drink distilled water, because I think it tastes like pennies. So,
yeah. It's weird. That's how some of that
copper
stuff it just hits you and you just dig it, you know. So we will give Mega Wheel of Magnificent another spin. It was actually a good primer question, kind of an appetizer for this show.
Just the tip.
Going in slow. Okay. This is another great one, considering we've got John as our guest today. Embarrassing songs you secretly enjoy and sing along to. So these are ones that you literally would potentially be embarrassed if someone caught you singing along with it. Because we are all avid music fans, as we talked about last episode. So this has got to be something that you dig down and you go, there's no way in hell I want anybody to know I listen to this and like it. But you're going to admit to it here on the show.
Okay, I have a music mix that's based off of You the Man Now Dog, which was a thing back in the early internet days. It was a group of guys who put out these CDs full of just disparate, weird music, and then they'd make their own music as well. It was always crass, reminded me of the good old days. Um, so I've been listening to a lot of those, and the songs I'm going to choose are actually kids' songs. They happen to be on some of these tracks, so I got reacquainted with them or acquainted with them. And I love singing Rafi's Banana Phone is a great song to sing. And there's one that's from a really just obscure, bizarre Scandinavian kids show that was called Lazy Town. It came out sometime in the early 2000s, and they did this really weird song. It was like, "You Are a Pirate." And it's done in a pirate voice and all that, and the kids are singing in the background, and it's just great. I actually have it as a ringtone right now because it's funny when it comes up in, public. This ludicrous singing comes up, and it makes everybody do a double take. And like I say, I have no shame anymore. I've lost that ages ago. So it just, kind of songs like that just make me happy. I don't know. It's weird. So how about you, John?
But that's weird in a good way.
Hmm.
I am not really ashamed of anything. I'll if I like something, I just kind of like it. Now, whether or not I'll do it in a public forum might depend on, maybe how vulgar it is, if it's vulgar. So, but okay, maybe something that, people would kind of give a side eye to, saying, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Why does he listen to that?" So maybe if I were listening to like traditional Irish drinking songs or traditional German drinking songs, um, that might be kind of weird to people. When I was really young, like a tween and a teenager, I was really into soul music and things like Janet Jackson, and I love that stuff now still. But back then, certainly, I think I probably would have been reticent to share that with people because you just don't know. It's like, is this going to be cool? Or they, who's going to buy me listening to this, right? But I really did love that music then and listen to it. Again, I'll mention a third one. Basically, any song sung by a Muppet.
All right.
Sesame Street, the movies, I love it all. Just bring it. Any song sung by a Muppet.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm embarrassed by anything that I like, listen to, or sing along to. Um, from the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood theme song to like Sesame Street and stuff. I was singing the Narwhal song at the top of my lungs with open car windows at a stoplight a couple years ago. And the dude in the car next to me, I look over and he's just looking at me like, "What?" And it's like I kept singing and light turned green and I went on. It's just kind of one of those things. Now there is stuff that I listen to and enjoy that people probably wouldn't think that I would. Like I still love Huey Lewis and the News. I really like Taylor Swift. I think she's a great songwriter. All kinds of stuff like that. But embarrassed. Nah, I'm a musician. I like music, and it doesn't really matter what flavor it is. I'll sing along regardless. It's part of the fun of it is that it's all different. So we'll move
The
on.
News were a good band.
Mario Cipollina is
could
like
play,
the image
they
of
could
somebody
sing.
playing
It was a good
bass.
band.
Yeah. Giving the wheel a spin. Okay. What does getting out of your comfort zone look like for you, Bunny?
That has changed wildly over the years. When I was young, I was always out of my comfort zone, just having fun, goofing off. Nowadays, I've moved to this little country house on a lake in the middle of a foggy valley where nobody can find me. And
I know
me
where
off
you
the,
are.
I know, getting me off the mountain, so to speak, is really getting me out of my comfort zone. I used to be a lot more spontaneous than I am now. Being spontaneous gets me out of my comfort zone. Wearing any sort of sporting memorabilia, sports memorabilia, is way out of my comfort zone. There's just certain things that just don't match. Scott went on a couple of episodes ago about my basketball prowess and stuff. The There's just things that it's like peanut butter and onions, you know, it just doesn't go together. It's not meant to go together. Um, so yeah, I would say just doing the more spontaneous thing is getting me out of my comfort zone anymore. It's sad to say. You know, if somebody said, "Hey, I got money and I'm just gonna, you can buy a ticket to anywhere that you want to fly to tomorrow." Oh, I'd just be like, no. It's too much out of my comfort zone. I got to plan everything out to the nth degree. I just don't do this. Jump on a plane anymore and go somewhere. And same with a car. We have friends that I admire greatly for the simple fact that it's in their DNA. Apparently, they can just decide, "Oh, I just feel like going to Florida," and they just get in the car the same night with a knapsack and they drive to Florida. I can't even imagine how to do that. That's how stodgy I've become in my old age. So spontaneity gets me out of my comfort zone. How about you?
I I think I would struggle with that same thing. I don't see myself deciding in the moment to hop on a plane or go in the car and go somewhere. I was in a traveling band for about 10 years, and I think I still have some PTSD from being on the road so much and being in strange places and sleeping on couches and being like in this car that's crammed so full of crap you like can't get enough air conditioning in the middle of August. And so I seriously do think I'm kind of a little PTSD. I really don't like um doing a lot of driving around and extensive traveling. And so maybe that's an issue with me. I need to get over and maybe push myself back out of the comfort zone at some point because I think it might be good for me to go some more places because also similar to what you were saying, Bunny, I've been, holed up in this house, in a valley surrounded by mountains for a long time. And so it's easy, isn't it, to just like settle in.
Mhm.
And why would you go anywhere? Why do I need to go anywhere? You know, it takes a while to go anywhere. And so it's easy to settle in here. I guess another thing I'll add is with music, I like to, every now and then, pick up a new instrument. Or about 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to really start singing for real, like not just around the house or knocking around on a backup vocal. I really wanted to learn how to sing. And so that was very much going out of the comfort zone for someone who had mostly always been an instrumentalist. But I remind myself of that all the time. David Bowie had a great way he put it when he said, "Imagine you're walking out into the ocean and the water's going up and up. Right about when it gets to here, something interesting is about to happen. Right when it's up to your neck." And so I think it's good for a person, like as reticent as we become to go outside the comfort zone sometimes. I really think that's how we grow.
Yeah. I I honestly don't know that I'm ever comfortable. I'm always a little bit on edge. I'm always worried about stuff. I'm kind of a bundle of anxiety as it is. So to get out of my comfort zone would be to be completely relaxed. And I don't know that I've ever been completely relaxed. Um, but I dig what you just said about singing, John, because I've always been bassist, played a little bit of guitar, tried to sing here and there, and been told numerous times that my voice sucks. But when I'm recording demos, I've taught myself I can't sing very well. I can get my ideas across now. I don't think I'd ever want to sing lead in a band, but for doing demo stuff, I feel comfortable that I can at least lay down the basic idea enough that an actual singer can get the idea and do something real with it. And that took a lot, especially after some of the the commentary that I've had on my vocals going back like 20 years, where literally I've been told, no, just stop. And to be honest, they were right. But to get to that point where I feel comfortable enough to actually, even though it's just on a demo, to actually do it, took a lot actually. So that, yeah, I totally dig that idea and love that reference to Bowie because it's spot on. It really is. If you don't jump off into the deep water, how do you know what you can actually do? So we will give Mega
Agreed.
Wheel Magnificent another spin. Over 1,300 topics, and what's she gonna give us? What are we gonna get? Here we go. We've had that one before. I'm going to take that off, and we're going to spin again. It was the question about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. And it all depends on your point of view. Not to go all Obi-Wan Kenobi on you, but... Okay, this is a cool one. This is going to be fun. If you could have your likeness sculpted or painted by any artist in history, who would you choose? Bunny.
Wow. All right. I think, it's going to sound a little bit like a cop-out, but I'd have to go with a classic, like a Leonardo da Vinci. Somebody who's going to do a bit more of a technical rendering of me, and not such an interpretive rendering of me. I'd also like to have my likeness sculpted by a Kenner artist and be made into an action figure. I think that'd be kind of fun. See what the toy version of Bunny looks like. Because, anything can be a dildo if you're brave enough, right? Isn't that what they say? So
that is indeed what
apply
they say.
Me where needed. Yeah. So I'd have to go Leonardo da Vinci. That would be my thing. And a nice sculpture would be nice. Why not?
Cool. John?
Of the classic artists, I'm going to go with Frida Kahlo. Always liked her style and her portraiture, so I'm going to go with her.
Cool.
I'm torn between two. I'm torn between Willem de Koning, who I love. I really love surrealist art, and he's kind of right there on the borderline. I'm not going to pick one of the surrealists. I'm going to go with either him or Wesley Willis, because the whole, l'art brut, and just to see what they would each do and then compare and contrast them, because probably neither one is going to look much like me at all, which is a good thing. But they're two of my favorites, so yeah, we'll roll with that.
Cool.
For such a long question, that was really quick to zip through. So we will give Mega Wheel of Magnificent another spin and see what we get. And here we go. This is a little bit like a question that we had a few shows ago, Bunny, but it's a twist on it. So I'm going to roll with it, and this will be our final question for this episode. In what situations is it acceptable, if ever, to lie? So we already determined a couple episodes ago, you said, yes, it's okay to lie given certain situations. I was a little bit more on the fence. In what situations is it acceptable, if ever, to lie?
I think it's acceptable to lie when you are going to tear down a comfort structure of someone. That's kind of a weird way of saying it's probably not put properly. For example, when I was holding my mother in my arms while she died, I felt that was acceptable to lie and say, oh no, it's all good. I'm going to be here, everything's fine, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't. I was a scared child. I was falling apart inside, but I was lying to give her comfort, because that's what she needed at that point in time. I think it's acceptable to lie to a child as long as it's not super damaging. Like it's great to tell them that Santa Claus is real, and it's great to tell them the Easter Bunny's real and the Tooth Fairy and all these wonderful things. It's fine to maintain the illusion of magic in a person's life, or religion, or spirituality, or anything. There's no real harm in allowing someone to have wonderment, as long as it isn't damaging to everyone around them. So I would say that's a perfect time to be able to, I think it's perfectly acceptable to lie a little bit in those situations. How about you, John?
This is kind of heavy. Uh, I can think of of kind of a particular scenario, whereas when a person is suffering, suffering from an illness, maybe something serious, when you share that with people, it changes your relationship with them and everyone else, and sometimes not in a good way, even if they mean well. And I've seen it happen many times where people that may be terminally ill, or they may just be really sick and trying to get better. And the most well-intentioned people will just kind of fixate on the illness, and they don't really see you as a person anymore. So in that instance, when that person that's sick, isn't completely honest with how they feel, they're not sharing this with the world. I totally get why. And so if we want to call that a lie, then I'd say, yeah, that's perfectly acceptable, because, you're controlling that narrative. It's your life. It's your body. And it's perfectly fine, I think, to do that.
Yeah. I think your answers, both of you, point out the flaw that I found in my own answer to the previous similar question, where my initial answer was no, it's never good to lie, and then kind of ending up sitting on the fence. It is sort of application based, but it's one of those classic philosophical things. It's one thing to argue in a classroom. It's one thing to debate or present your beliefs in a paper and provide backing evidence and determine one way or the other. But as one of my philosophy professors, Dr. Trundle, used to say, when the rubber hits the road, where are you going? And that's the thing that your examples kind of point out. Is it right to lie? No. You can say that easily. And yet everyone, when faced with certain situations, will determine based on their moral compass and the situation and the needs of the other people that they're dealing with, one way or the other. And at certain levels of fabrication. And it's one of the ways that we get through, because we are human, we're animals, but we reason. And we are emotional animals. And we have so much going on. We are so complex and yet also so simple. It's easy to take a question like this and just go yes or no. It's black or white. And yet the world we know is such a wash of colors and shades of gray that you can't just give it a yes or no, because there are always going to be situations that are out of the ordinary and extraordinary that require those extraordinary means and ways to get through them. So I applaud both of you and your answers, because they really point out how tough that question is to answer and how personal it is for everyone. And I would hope everybody listening has kind of followed along. And I would assume that anybody listening is probably vacillated between their first immediate answer when we asked the question and maybe where we've ended up here after all three of us have gone through it. I think that's one of the better things we do on the show sometimes, is we've got that immediate reaction, and then the more we talk about it, we end up kind of expanding the field to such a point that maybe people think about it for days or weeks and keep turning it over in their heads. So that'll do it for this episode of the Gen X-istentialists. John, thanks again for being here. Appreciate having you.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
And Bunny, I'll catch you next time. You're always here.
Always a pleasure.
My name's Scott, and until the next time, this has been the Gen X-istentialists. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a good one.